This is the Inferno Blazer Sports Show. With your hosts Jaylan Scott, Chris Mercer, Kyle Hawthorne, and Jack Calhoun. We're all about the Blazer sports.
Valdosta State Blazers!
So again, welcome to the Inferno.
Good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be and whenever you may be listening. Thank you for joining us on the Inferno Blazer Sports Show, our first podcast episode. Going around the table here, I'm joined by public address announcer of the Valdosta State Blazers, Jaylan Scott. Jaylan, say hello to the podcast.
Want to say what's up to everybody. This is Jaylan, the PA announcer for Valdosta State and the volleyball team. Glad to be here.
And joining alongside us as well, two of Blazer Sports Media's finest, Kyle Hawthorne and Chris. Chris, what is your last name, Chris?
Mercer, as in Mercer University, but I'm too broke to go there. Shout out to 919. Y'all know what it is.
We do, in fact, know what it is.
Yes.
Right. Kyle, would you like to say anything to the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Glad to be here. Glad to be back in the booth. Ready for a good show.
Yeah, Mr. Camera 3 over here.
Oh, yeah.
The syrup maker representing Cairo.
Oh, my God.
Loud and proud, baby.
Yes. Would you like to go around and shout out our hometowns? Jaylan, where are you from originally?
I'm actually representing two hometowns. I originally came from, I was born in Columbus, Ohio, so 614 represent, but I spent most of my time in Marietta. So Marietta Blue Devils, spent last 13 years of my life there. So now I'm here Valdosta doing this junk with you guys, and I couldn't be any more proud.
So let me just ask you this. I mean, this is as a friend here. Mm-hmm. How are you a Cowboys fan if you're from Ohio and Georgia? I mean, like, where did that come from? Do you not carry any shame, sir?
Of course, I don't carry any shame. You're a fan of who you're a fan of. So why would I show shame in that? Chris, you shut up. We're not getting into that right now. But
that'll be later on in the podcast, folks.
I can't wait.
Oh, don't remind me.
Well, how about the syrup maker to your left? Where are you coming out of, Cairo?
Cairo? Yeah.
Cairo, yes.
We don't say that. I am coming out of Cairo, Georgia, right out of Grady County here in the 229. And yeah.
Oh,
what about you, Chris? Where are you coming from?
I'm from Camden, New Jersey, born, but I was
New
raised
Jersey?
Yeah,
You're from New Jersey?
Oh, I never would have guessed that.
I didn't even know it was a place.
I know, born in Jersey, but when I was 2 years old, was essentially raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, when 9, I started out doing little shows like this at 9 years old, 605 Raleigh Boulevard. Shout out to all them folks there.
Raleigh's a great little place.
Yeah, man. And I moved to Georgia off and on 8-9 years. So I lived in Henry County and a little bit of Fulton County. So shout out to everybody in the 404, 678. And crazy enough, I just got a 404 number now that I'm out of.
We're proud of you. We're proud of you.
It took me long enough.
Oh, yeah.
I had an outsider number for a while. But also, I'm an Eagles fan, so
gosh.
If you are ready for some incredible banter between me and a Cowboys fan,
stay tuned. It is our last segment on the podcast. You're definitely going to want to tune in for that one. And to round out the panel we have here, I'm coming to you from Moultrie, Georgia, the pride of Colquitt County. Although I lived a good bit of my life in Myrtle Beach, which we will definitely not bring up again on the podcast. We all have, the dirty Myrtle is exactly how it sounds. We all have Georgia ties, but we all have Valdosta State ties, which is the reason why we decided to give this podcast a try. And speaking of Valdosta ties, our first topic is our Tuesday night victory over Albany State. In 4 sets, the Blazers took a highly competitive and entertaining matchup. And I was on the call for this game. Jaylan was the PA announcer on this game as well. And I believe, Kyle was working that game. And Chris, you were working that game too, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I was.
You were working a game. So we were all present for this game. And I want to go around the table here and get some ideas and thoughts on what exactly was it that you saw. And I can give you some of my analysis as well. But like Jaylan, from you had the best view of anyone in the house. What did you see that Valdosta State did well or needs to improve on?
It was definitely the attacking side. On offense, the Blazers were clicking on almost all cylinders. They had a couple moments where it looked like they were sputtering, where they couldn't get the ball placed where they wanted to on these kill attempts. But eventually it clicked for them. It clicked for this attacking team, and they got on it. Lily Glover, my goodness, the freshman
libero. She's really making her presence known.
Oh yeah, definitely. She's playing like how Gabby Ortiz was playing the first couple games of the season, and how Gabby was playing last year. Just that lockdown. Well, you can't really say lockdown, it's wrong terminology, but just that all around great defender making great plays. There was a play in the third set where she ran all the way to the scores table. She ran all the way to where we are to get a ball back in play that ultimately led to an Albany State point. But it shows some amazing hustle by the freshman, the rest of the team rallying around her. And her defensive play, and of course capitalizing on a lot of offensive chances, like Mackenzie Murray, JoJo Smith, Christina Pettigrew, Mallory Roney just kills out the wazoo for those four girls right there. So offense galore.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mackenzie Murray actually led all scores with, I believe it was 17 kills the other night. 17. I actually wrote an article about her this week for the Spectator and how well she led the charge this week. She actually had, I believe it was 2 set clinching kills. I believe it was the first and third set. Chris, we're going to go to you. What were your thoughts on the matchup last Tuesday?
I think the issue, I feel like, and especially in previous games as I've been accustomed to, it feels like the issue always gets off to like these slower starts, but they always seem to find a way to close out the sets in dominant fashion. But I think that, it does cause a bit of concern, because I feel like when you start off slow and sometimes the sets can get away from you, and Tuesday was a good example of being able to combat that and being able to win it in 4. But I do want to bring back to a point on Saturday. There was their matchup there on Saturday afternoon, which I still don't understand, considering the fact that I had to work football and volleyball that day. But
that just means you're getting paid more. That just means you're making more money.
No. But one of the things that we really look at with the team is just that they are it's a slow burn. It's like, anybody in here knows when you grill, it's like it doesn't take how long it is on the stove. And when you're seeing a team fall down 2 sets, and these are close within, I believe on Saturday's matchup, the first 2 sets were...
Jaylan, can we get an exact estimate on that?
Both went into overtime of sense, but it had to be decided beyond 25 points. And
that'd be sudden death, not overtime.
Sudden death, that's what I mean. Yeah. But like in sudden death in the first 2 sets. And then, of course, VSU got it together and won in 3 straight sets after that. But it just was... It's frustrating in a sense, because, you know how good this team can be.
Right.
And I just think those, slow starts just cannot happen, especially when you start to play some of the best teams.
Right, we're going to go to Kyle in a second. Jaylan, what did you get us an exact tally on these scores from the sets on Saturday's match?
Yeah, we did against Lee University, one of definitely the mid to top tier teams in the GSC right now. Valdosta State went down the first 2 sets. That went into extra points, by the way. For those who don't know, to win a set in volleyball, you got to go to 25 points. But if a set's tied at 24, they play win by 2. Lee took the first set 28-26, and the second set 27-25. So it's not like VSU was completely out of it. They were definitely not out of it. They were staying competitive, but just let those points. But those points just end up getting away from them those first 2 sets, and of course, as we know, they came on back 3rd, 4th, and 5th set before the reverse sweep. So Kyle, I know you had your hand up ready to talk. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So back to kind of what Chris was saying, back to the Albany State game. I mean, they played good, but the one thing that we gotta remember, and we had discussions about this after the game, was it was Albany State. They are in a lower classification of conference. I mean, it's not GSC. They've always said that the GSC is the SEC of Division II. And the fact that it was just a little bit of struggle, some people can look at it and say that is a negative, but it also gives to the point of the fight. And I've always said with these rivalry games and these close games that, the two schools are not too far apart geographically.
Yes, I believe we found out on the podcast not podcast, the call. I think it was 88 miles.
Yeah, that's not too far.
It's less. It's like the backyard brawl almost.
Yeah,
with West Virginia.
It's similar to, think about a rivalry high school football game. It doesn't matter if the team is 4A versus 2A. If you're fighting for a trophy, it doesn't matter. It's grit, it's go, and it does not matter. And so that's what I'm really talking about here is you can look at the conference difference, but at the end of the day, this is a rivalry game, and I think they play very well.
Well, all things considered, I think they did play very well. Indeed, 25-22 was the score in both set 1 and 2. But Valdosta State took set 1, Albany State took set 2. I remember being up there with one of our Blazer Sports media colleagues. I forget his name now, but Grayson, that was his name. Grayson, bless his heart, he was concerned. He was like, I thought we would be dominating, and I'm like, well. Volleyball is not all about domination. And then I say that, and out comes set 3. The Blazers came out and scored 20 before Albany State scored 2. I mean,
what did they score? Like 2 points? That's it?
No, they ended up with 8. They scored 4 at the very end. Yeah, and they scored 4 at the very end of the set. But Murray, Roney, everyone came out and just was playing Blazer volleyball to the highest level they can. And I spoke with Coach Zuhal after the game, and she was telling me, she said third set was a really good confidence boost for them, especially after dropping set 2. She said that they could play like that all the time. There's no telling where they can go. And she already has a lot of confidence in the team. I mean, heck, you compare their record to last year to where they are now, they have made a massive improvement. I mean, with the exception of Olivia Piazza last year, that was the lone senior. Everyone else has come back. They got a year better. I mean, they got a feisty freshman in Glover, like you said, Jaylan.
Yeah.
They are primed to make a really good run this season. I believe they will definitely have a winning record this year, and you never know when it comes time for tournament time. They may contend in the conference tournament. You never know.
Yeah, it's all about playoff experience. I mean, they lost, what was it, one senior, you said? I mean,
one senior,
they all have all that playoff experience. They're going to come in more experienced, and that is going to benefit them.
And a majority of the team is juniors. There is not a single senior on that team.
Exactly.
That was the biggest thing also last year when they were making that run to get into the tournament last year, was that they were so young and being able to.
They were a young and scrappy bunch, yeah.
And it was just like being able to have that core come back for another go at it, and you still have time. Like, that's the dangerous part.
I was telling people, Chris, last year when I commentated a lot of the games last year as well, and we ended on a 14-19 record. I believe it was 14-18, something like 4 or 5 games under 500. And I was talking to a couple of people that were we go to class with and whatnot, and they're like, 14-19, we're that bad? I'm like, well, it's not really that bad when you think about building a team. A lot of people, when they hear a losing season, they're like, oh, nope, time to go. And it's like, no, there's a process to building it. And when you look at that team from last year, like Jaylan said, like we both said, there was one senior last year, and everybody else was either a freshman or sophomore. And yes, it may be red shirt, but they were sophomores or freshmen. I mean, that being said, they really do have a good case to take a really big step this season. We just hope that they keep playing like they do. They're 11-4 right now. They're undefeated in conference. Let's see what happens. I'm looking forward to calling the rest of the season because I'm really looking forward to seeing how they stack up the rest of the year. Yeah. Who knows? They might go win a conference tournament.
I'm definitely so ready, especially as PA announcer, just to first have this opportunity. That's already massive. As somebody who came off his little experience as PA announcing youth football games, I did that for like 3-4 years, and now I'm here PA announcing college volleyball games. That's a gigantic step forward. And if anything, I think about, I'm actually not going to be here for our upcoming home matches on the 13th and 14th against GSC opponents. I got my boy Chris calling those games while I'm heading up back home for Marietta's homecoming game, which we face our rival, like what you said earlier, Kyle. Our rival is McEachern. So So I mean, yeah, that's a huge rivalry. We're gonna move on to our next topic here. Speaking of change, speaking of from year to year basis, like what Jack said, the football team, man, it is wild. Football team's first 4-0 start since 2021. Which for those who don't know, I mean, of course you guys know, you already here for that. That was the year we went on our national title run, or national championship run.
We're runner-up season, yeah.
National finals.
What's crazy to me is if you compare, we have a game coming up against Shawan this week in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. If the Blazers win this week, they match their win total from last season. That is what is crazy to me. I mean, what a turnaround in a season it seems to have been for Coach Jackson and company. It really is something. I mean, a lot of people were calling for his job, last year after they went 5-6,
which I think is ridiculous. I think the only give a guy 1 year. It's like Steve Wilkes in Arizona. Granted, that year was not good, but to fire him only after 1 year is ridiculous. And I think those calls for Jackson after only year one is again ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, they usually say, "Oh yeah, give them a recruiting class," and that's a good way to say it. Like, bring in your own guys and see what you can do with the guys that you bring in. But the problem with Valdosta is that this is title town. We win championships or you get out of town, and that is the expectation in this community. Not just with Valdosta State, but with Valdosta High and Lowndes County. You win championships. Yeah. And to go from being the national finalist 1 year to a losing record under a new coach, it's bound to get people talking about firing the guy.
Right. And I do think that what makes this run impressive is that you have a first-year quarterback, first year as a starter. And Sammy Edwards has been really good.
Man, don't tell me about
it. He's had a lot of, to live up to the legacy left with Ivory last year. And you see a lot of the influence of, Ivory Durham in the way that he was able to roll out the pocket and able to make plays downfield. And one of the things that I really think is the difference is the defense. I think the defense especially because we were at the game on Saturday, is that they were able to get to the quarterback. And being able to rush the passer was the biggest issue and the biggest change from 2023 or coming from 2022 as well, is that I can count on my hands how many times that the VSU defense was able to get a sack all season. I can count on maybe one hand, and I may not even be stretching it. And being able to it's just like being able to get to that, you're able to get to the quarterback, being able to force turnovers, being able to be physical at the line just matters. And I just think that they have done a tremendous job.
Yeah, the line has definitely gotten better after last season.
And Coach Jackson is a defensive-minded coach coming from Colorado Mesa. But we also have to understand that the offense coordinator, Rick Bowie, he comes from, I believe it was Houston, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And, he's a young guy. He was a graduate assistant at a bunch of places, and he comes in with a lot of experience. I believe he's running air raid still like Coach Goff was running. And I believe that really translates well with the offense because a lot of our older players, the juniors and the seniors that the previous coaching staff recruited, that's what they came to play. We used to say that we had the best receiving core in the entire country, more or less, not even the GSC, the entire country, and that was because of that air raid offense. And the fact that we're still able to run that is really what's helping us get to the point where we are right now. I can remember when Sammy Edwards was a freshman and a sophomore, and they were calling him to be potentially a Harlan Hill winner once he gets that starting job from Ivory.
And now it's looking to be a very real possibility. I think another thing to also note here, and this could also just be first year struggles because of course you guys being here already for a couple of years. I'm a sophomore. I came into here fall of 2022, so that was my first true experience of watching Blazer football. And at the time, what I was watching was a very methodical kind of offense where they just got very conservative. at the wrong times. It seems like, and that's how we lost a couple. That's how VSU lost a couple of their games, is being this very conservative, kind of like playing it safe, which again could be totally a first year adjustment thing. But this year, the shift from this kind of safe offense to, we're going to run this ball down. We're going to run the ball down your throat and also sky it out. Yeah. And just go for it. That's the kind of football that you really associate with Valdosta State, of just going for it.
Well, that's also the offense that Bowie historically he likes to run. And really, it's not only a good offense if you're trying to really, really score points, but it's also ones that fans love to watch. Like, for example, I was in attendance for last week's game against North Greenville, and I was watching, Edwards completing passes left and right like it was nobody's business. I'd look down for a second, I'd look up, he'd be completing another 10-yard pass. I'd look down for a second, look up, he'd have another 20-yard pass. And then between there, they'd be running the ball as well and pounding it down their throats, to the point that their defense didn't have time to adjust. That's from an offensive mindset and a scheme, that's smart. And I think that's part of the reason why they've been so successful early on this year. We hope that they can continue that success.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things also that as we're going into this game this weekend, although, the record for Chowders is 0-4 as of this moment, and you do not want to fall into a trap, because they don't want to overlook them, because the following home game is against Delta State. Right. And as of right now, Delta State is undefeated, just like VSU. And you have a potential of 2 unbeatens, and especially of last year's history where Delta State put up 70 against us last year.
I wanted 77 points exactly, I think it was.
It wasn't.
I was watching Georgia, Missouri last year. I don't know.
It was that is going to be some motivation, but they cannot overlook them, because you do not want to hang a loss to a team that doesn't have any.
Yeah, and looking ahead to that Delta State game, not to go and mislook the game that we're about to play Saturday. I know that's what we're really talking about, is not mislooking that, is that Delta State game. That's going to be how we rise back into the top 20, the top 15. I mean, I believe we're ranked 22 right now.
Yeah, 22nd.
First time we're ranked since falling out of the top 25. That's going to be that game that cements us as Valdosta State is back, and we are back with a vengeance.
Yeah, I am excited to see that Delta State game, obviously, because of...
It's homecoming, isn't it?
No, a couple weeks. We're a couple weeks in. It's I know, breast cancer awareness is for the 2nd, and that game kicks off at 2. Make sure you check that out on Flow Sports. A shameless plug. But
the only Flow Sports.
I just do think that they cannot overlook them, because you do not want to overlook an opponent just because they don't have a win yet. But speaking of overlooking,
I knew this.
As the only Eagles fan on the panel, I must say, it feels good to be 3-0. Taking care of the teams that you're supposed to. But we have a supposed.
Oh yeah, you're gonna pat yourself on the back for beating Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers.
I've been waiting for a long time, waiting all week. Folks, now the Cowboy fan over here. Now I'm an Eagles fan, and I don't like.
Specify who the Cowboy fan is, because they can't see us.
It's certainly
it's definitely not me.
We got Jaylan over here, head down.
I got 3 pairs of eyes on me right now.
Listen. Jaylan. There are not words to describe the indignation, the fire in my loins when I saw you were down by over 2 scores.
Don't even get me started.
You have
to
know the amount of backlash you were going to face.
Yeah, I knew the kind of backlash I was going to face.
But I don't think it really, in this is this. Now, everyone talks about any given Sunday, especially if you've watched the NFL for longer than that, and you respect it in a way. There are times when you play down to your competition. But that's not what happened on Sunday. You guys digged yourselves 6 feet below that competition and decided to play there.
Seriously.
You lost to a team that has 2 first-round picks this year. Can legitimately get them Caleb Williams, and they could ruin a 3rd straight great quarterback prospect.
Whoa, wait. Great quarter. Are you saying that Josh Rosen was a great quarterback?
And when he was coming out.
had potential.
He
had the potential, but he in Arizona failed each other.
Well,
that's my take on that.
Here's the thing with it as well. If you look at his receiving core at that time, it was Larry Fitzgerald on his last wheels and who else? It wasn't like it was now where you're like, oh, you have.
I'm not saying that Josh Rosen wasn't given the shaft. I'm saying great is a bit of an overstatement. Good, maybe, but not great.
Pick for a reason.
But at the same time, I'm going to make this very clear. There is no way. Chris,
here comes the 15-1 chance.
Chris, I get what you're saying about. I get what you're saying about any given Sunday. But if you look at this matchup on paper, you read the matchup, and you can just tell by a surface glance of who the Cowboys were playing. That's a game we should win.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Jalen's just
what
mad.
Happened?
Jalen's mad because the head coach of Arizona is a former Eagles coordinator. That's why he's even more.
I didn't know that. I actually did not know.
You didn't know that?
Again, and the one thing he's done right. I wish he could have had that better defensive play calling when it was the Super Bowl in that same stadium. But we're not going to talk about that right now.
That was a hold.
But let's discuss Sunday for just a minute. Now I know that Trevon Diggs got hurt, and that's
not an excuse.
Hold on, don't get your panties in a bunch yet. Now look, Trevon Diggs being hurt, that sucked. It does. Losing one of the best corners in the game, but my God, this is Arizona. I mean, this isn't like you're facing Kyler Murray, Arizona.
I mean, this
it's Joshua Dobbs, Arizona.
And in the wise words
Jaylan.
of Swagoo, should be a NASA scientist right now.
The Arizona Wildcats could possibly beat the Arizona Cardinals. That's how poor they are this year.
I know, and it makes it even worse.
Makes it extremely worse.
That kind of comparison just kind of really just drives the stake into the heart of a lot of Cowboys fans out there of what happened. And it's not just Diggs being injured. That's not a valid excuse. Where was the team? Where was the team offense? Where was the team defense? You allowed 28 points against a team that was essentially playing like a lucky person playing Madden, going for 2 after every touchdown. What happened?
Well, I can tell you what happened. Them boys is what happened.
That's right. It's so frustrating because this happens every year. This has happened every year. I would swear.
This is our year, Cowboys fans.
We are the Toronto Maple Leafs. We are the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL.
Maple Leafs because y'all are not.
That's an insult to the Maple Leafs, exactly.
Here's my high school football team won a cup before the Leafs won a cup.
Here's the problem about
won a championship, but they won a cup.
And it's like y'all expectations. Your expectations are exactly the same every single year. Because we talk about VSU a lot on this podcast this time, and we talked about how if you're not winning a title, you're getting ready to get shown the door. Cowboy fans, y'all have been doing that since 1996.
I wasn't alive.
I wasn't alive. None of us were. I don't think. I know Kyle a little old, but like, my goodness, we ain't that. But let me tell you this: y'all have the same expectations every year, and you get the same thing every single.
I can tell you what it is, Jaylen.
What?
I can tell you why the Cowboys haven't won anything in 25 years. You want me to tell you? It's
Go right ahead.
2 words.
Go ahead, because I'm pretty sure it's something I've already heard before.
Jerry Jones. Here's the thing.
That's it.
No, hang on. No, let me speak on this.
Okay,
Jerry Jones. Okay, I will give him this. He is not a great NFL owner, but I will say, as a marketer, I don't believe there's anyone better. The only one that rivals him right now is Taylor Swift, but that's a whole other conversation. Here's the thing: when he bought just hang with me. About 35 years ago, when he bought the Cowboys, he came out and did some very unpopular things. Like, for example, his first act as owner of the Cowboys was to fire legendary head coach Tom Landry, which upset fans across this great nation. And I understand so, because regardless if you like the Cowboys or not, whatnot, Tom Landry is a very well-respected coach. We understand.
We get that, Chris.
But hang on. But stay with me here. So Jerry Jones, in about 4 years, paid off loans to buy the Cowboys that he thought was going to take 30. That's how good of a marketer he was to get the money back. His problem was, once he got Jimmy Johnson in play, and Jimmy Johnson started critiquing the team the way he wanted it, and won back-to-back Super Bowls, he started meddling. That is when it started to go downhill. Because here's the thing. Since he started meddling with the team, they only won one Super Bowl, and that was with Barry Switzer. And I don't believe anyone at this table can tell me if they didn't have the talent that team did that beat Pittsburgh, you could have put any of us out there with the Madden rookie package, and we could have won a Super Bowl. I mean, it was a Hall of Fame team there. You had the Great Wall of Dallas, Emmitt Smith in the backfield, arguably the greatest running back of all time. Troy Aikman was no snub. I mean, they had Michael Irvin as well. A lot of people forget, what was his name? Alan Harper was a solid second option.
But here's the thing with it, though, at the end of the day. We're talking about something that has happened well over 25 to near 30.
But that's my point. Jerry Jones has been doing this for 25 years because he is to the point now he doesn't care about winning. He wants it to be done his way. Whether he wins or loses, he wants it to be his call.
And that's a problem.
It is a problem.
That's the gigantic problem.
Do you remember about 10 years ago that his son, Steven, had to literally take the pick out of his hands? They're about ready to draft Johnny Manziel in the first round.
Yeah, which could have been... Which granted, Manziel coming out of college was a gigantic boomer bust. Who knows? If Dallas drafted Manziel, he might have actually panned out.
Come on now.
But granted, at the same time, it's Johnny football we're talking about.
We're 2 days from Sunday as the time of this recording. You gonna lie 2 days before?
Come on
Sunday?
now.
Come on. But here's the problem with Johnny. Here's the problem with this. At the end of the day,
Johnny was
y'all are doing the same things that you did to Romo as what you're doing with Prescott.
You're just letting him stick around.
Yeah, you're just letting him stick around because let's keep it 1,000. If y'all are not in the NFC title game this year, or if y'all somehow mess around and miss the playoffs,
we need to blow it up. No, that's done.
Y'all realize it's done.
It's done. It's done. Prescott era over. It's been 7 years. It's been 7 years of the same thing since Prescott and Ellie got drafted, and now one of them's gone.
Well,
one of them went to New England.
The last time that the last time y'all had a different quarterback, Colin Kaepernick was still in the league, right? And you know what makes this really bad? Not only and especially in this time period since '96. Do you realize that the division rivals of the Giants have been to 4 Super Bowls in that time?
Oh my God, yes.
They lost.
They haven't been to 4 Super Bowls in that time. They went to 2.
Super Bowl where they lost to the Ravens.
Oh, that's right. They did.
I'm sorry, 3.
They did go to that one.
And then the 2 fluky Eli Manning runs. Thank you for beating Tom Brady. And then
he just thanked the Giants for winning 2 Super Bowls as an Eagles fan. That's not a true Eagles fan.
I know,
right
but
that's not.
Again, who did he face?
Who did he face? What do you mean?
Tom Brady.
Well, as much as I hate Tom Brady, as a Falcons fan, he is the GOAT.
We're not going to get on you this.
It's Kyle's father.
But let's.
Oh, maybe not
But let's keep it on track with this. Then the Eagles, who's always been that little brother. How did it feel when we won a Super Bowl in this time frame before you, and it went back to a Super Bowl?
Felt like the city was on
and
fire.
And it was on fire.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we are in a position to do it again and again and again. And the problem is with Cowboys fans is that y'all don't know how to dilute your expectations. Now, if y'all were a group like Cleveland that doesn't expect a lot and just take what is given, guess what? We wouldn't roast y'all like this. But when we gotta sit there,
speak for yourself. I probably would. But
if we gotta sit there for more than 8 primetime games a freaking year,
they need to be taken off primetime.
Thanksgiving.
There you go, Jerry Jones being a great marketer again.
And here we are. And again, great marketer and all, but I don't feel like watching the Cowboys every year.
Let me also.
The conversation always ends up being, it's our year, right? We gonna do
Chris,
this thing now here, Jerry Jones. We gonna get one more for him.
Let me also point something else out. In terms of Jerry Jones being a great marketer, the last time I checked, they were neck and neck. The 2 most valuable professional sports franchises out there right now, in terms of if you wanted to buy it, would be the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone should say to
right.
it.
He's a great marketer. Don't get me wrong, because the man knows what he's doing. But
in the marketing sense,
wise, but in terms of running a NFL franchise as the general manager,
it has been awful. It has been awful.
The worst part about it all is that it's not gonna stop.
It's not going to stop until Jerry's dead.
Listen,
it's not going to stop until Jerry's dead.
Jaylan, let me tell you a secret. So, I fully believe that the Cowboys will never win another Super Bowl until Jerry Jones is not the owner of the Cowboys, and here's why.
Go ahead.
So, a little story. back before the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl, Jerry Jones made a promise. Mm-hmm. And he made a promise to God. He said, if you get me another Super Bowl, I'll never ask for another one. And he got that Super Bowl. And I think God has given him his end of the bargain.
The gigantic metaphorical middle finger.
The Cowboys will never win another Super Bowl with Jerry Jones at the helm.
And just like this podcast, we need to wrap things up. And Jerry Jones didn't do that all those years ago. And shut it! Speaking of wrapping things up, I think that's going to do it for us, for all of us here, man. We appreciate you listening to this madness. Go Birds. Have yourself a great NFL and college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. We wish you goodbye, hello, and good night. Bye.